I want you to feel comfortable about owning a car like this that goes right there. It was very easy to remove. It's just 3 10mm bolts. So young people naturally want them because the Porsche snobs decided, oh, the 944 does not tickle our fancy, therefore we don't want the prices to be enormous. Yes, what is up, Porsche 944 freaks? I am here late, I am working on the car, so let's go look at it. It's time to learn things about 944s. Okay, yeah, I know this is impromptu because I don't have anybody to help me hold the camera, so I hope you guys like this still. It is what it is, but it's a pretty cool place, and hopefully we learn something. So there's the 944. What are you doing, Casey? Why are you tearing it all apart? So basically, here's the deal. I really like Porsche 944s. I think they are good looking, nice to drive cars, and they're reasonably inexpensive. So young people naturally want them because the Porsche snobs decided, oh, the 944 does not tickle our fancy, therefore we don't want the prices to be enormous, which is great because normal people can actually enjoy these wonderful cars. But the problem is the Porsche snobs and the crazy mechanics all make it sound like, oh, they require the magic of NASA to work on. Do they? So we're going to go into that. This car, some of you may know, I bought for $3,000. It has right about 100,000 miles and is a rather nice example. It appears to have had one repaint and the interior is very good. There are no issues with the seats. Of course, the leather might be shrinking just a little bit, but it's quite nice. And the dashboard in general is uncracked. So the interior is quite nice, the body's quite nice, doesn't look like it's ever been wrecked or anything like that. So I want to show you guys what I am doing here in the engine bay, and I'm running out of breath. I sound like a dork, but it is what it is. So I'm trying to move quickly. So here's the engine bay. You guys can obviously see real quick, it has some aftermarket spark plug wires that seem to be okay. Now, first thing I did is I removed the battery. It's low. I'm going to take the battery to a local auto parts store to have them test it, and I may put a brand new one in if it's an issue. Another note, down there in the nether regions of the car, it's not power steering, but obviously it has an alternator and has an air conditioning compressor. This 944 for its ancillary does have a multi-ribbed belt, which is right here. And actually this is in really good shape. This is basically brand new, but it was squealing like crazy because it was loose. So I removed it because one, I wanted to see what kind of condition it's in. And it's fine, so I'm going to reuse it. There's no reason to replace that at all. Anyway, if we look underneath the car, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, the tensioner tie rod for the, let's see, you can see it there. See this, guys, right here, that nicely zinc-plated piece? That's how you adjust the tension. So it's really easy to do. I literally just laid down just like this, and you can see the air conditioning compressor here, and then there's the, appears to be the pulley on the crank. So I loosened it. Okay, let's see if you guys can see this. The air conditioning compressor here is wiggly this way. See that? Shouldn't be doing that. Now, I don't recall what the mount is like. Oof, holding that, but we're gonna find out. So that's probably why it was squealing, it was loose. And if it wiggles like that, it's most likely gonna end up being unaligned and screw up the belt. So now you can see here, I have removed the distributor cap, which is here on a cover. And then the rotor, which is actually over here, here's the rotor, is driven directly off the front of the camshaft here. Okay, so that's been removed. Here is the metal cover that goes right there. It was very easy to remove. It's just 3 10mm bolts. And this is the plastic cover so you can access your timing belts. I also removed this very easily with a number of 10mm bolts, which I have sat there. Yes, I'm being a little brave. I don't want to drop them, but I think we'll be just fine. Now you can see if you look in here, let me bring the light a little closer, and thank you for being patient with me, not having a camera person today. Yes, this should be much better. So obviously here's the camshaft sprocket, and here is the timing belt for the camshaft. It is a single camshaft. Now, all you nitpicky people, let's not get bogged down with all the details, okay? Let's just get by. This belt here, the second timing belt, is for the balance shafts, okay? Let's see if you can see that all right. Now this one's interesting because it's actually toothed on both sides. That's important for the nature of how it drives. And the balance shafts on either side is how they keep this relatively large displacement 4-cylinder engine smooth. On race cars, oftentimes, they'll simply remove the balance shafts to make the car lighter and have less complexity, and just run the timing belt as is. But in a street car, this makes it more pleasant. Now, A couple of things. You can see that it has the updated water pump because it has this block off, which I think is a post 86. So it's a newer water pump. But by looking at the pulley on the water pump and just the nature of some of the corrosion and kind of the texture, which I don't know if you can see right there where the belt, because actually the timing belt turns the pulley on the water pump here on the smooth backside. But this right here tells me it's a little bit older. So I don't see any leaking or weepage. And actually water pumps are relatively easy to do on 944s like this. So, you know, the hoses look nice, that looks reasonable. If I don't feel any play, if I don't see any weepage, I might not replace it this time around because it's pretty easy for me to do. There's just not really much sense. I'm gonna put new timing belts on this. You know, these actually look like they're in really good shape. I could probably drive them for a number of years, just tension them and they'd be fine. But it's so easy to change the belts on a 944 that you might as well just throw new timing belts on it. You know what I'm saying? It's not that hard. And no, you really don't need crazy special tools and a tensioner. And to illustrate that, I'm literally going to do all this work on this car with no directions. I kid you not. And I'll give you an example why. Oh, Casey, you can't do that. You're setting a bad standard for Porsche mechanics. I don't care. It's doable. This is not that hard. Let me show you guys some tricks that I remember here. Okay, so first of all, there's a notch right here, a little timing mark for this. If you notice here, there's a notch right there. Those clearly line up. And I'm telling you down there somewhere, and I don't remember where they are, but there's gonna be the same thing for the crankshaft. And you'll probably also see some timing marks, like there's a little notch here for the balance shaft match up. And if you turn everything and all the marks are lining up, well, guess what, genius? You've got the place that they're supposed to be. And then you just use basic, oh shoot, I'm touching buttons. I'm on night vision, it's predator mode. Okay, so then you just use basic intelligence to get a tension that makes sense on the belt and checking your idler pulleys and such. Now, I will be frank, and I can't remember where, but there is a place where it is helpful and or important to have a very thin wrench. For instance, this idler pulley, let's see if you can see it right down there, I'm pointing at it. It is an eccentric. So there's a nut you can see right down there, that's to tighten it up, and then there is a hexagonal thing here that you can turn to adjust the position of this pulley and adjust the tension on the belt. That's how you do these, okay? So you need a thin wrench or something, excuse me, to hold that while you tighten it down. Since it doesn't require a lot of pressure, you can oftentimes make a wrench or grind one down smooth or even cut out sheet metal in a way just to hold it while you tension it. And while that may not be perfect, it allows you to, guess what, get the job done, which is what this is going to be. And since this is my car, I can experiment with doing this the quick, easy way, and either I'm an idiot and I'll blow this up and everything I'm saying is terrible, or it'll be just fine. Now, I'm not telling you, a potential novice or first-time owner of something like this, to work on it that way, but I am doing this because I want you to feel comfortable about owning a car like this. That if you're a decent mechanic and you go through the right things, you have the reasonable tools to do this, you use new things, you read the directions, you talk to intelligent people, or you have a good mechanic, you're gonna be just fine. Now, as another note, and I wanna be really honest about this, there was a time long ago I had a 944 and I didn't feel confident in doing timing belts yet. And I took it to a place and they replaced it. And I just knew there was something wrong. It was making way too much noise, whining noise. So I pulled the cover off to look at it. And first of all, one of the belts was way too loose. It just was. It's simple to tell. And the other thing is the nature of how you adjust the pulleys in relation to each other's. There's a couple of ways you can get the right tension, but things will be too close and rub and make a lot of noise. So it frankly, by a Porsche mechanic that allegedly had the so-called tensioning tool, was done all wrong. And I knew this. And as a young person at the time, I couldn't stand that. I wasn't gonna drive it back down to this stupid mechanic that obviously did it wrong. It's time for me to learn and fix it myself. And that's what I did. And my dad thought I was crazy. He's like, what are you doing? You're just not a mechanic, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, Dad, first of all, the mechanic clearly screwed up and here's why. And I'm gonna make this work. And if I can't make it work, I'm obviously gonna admit it and stop it. But you know what? I did make it work. My thought process was sound, and I have never had anyone else change a timing belt of mine since. So I just want you guys to know that story. Now, some other details about this 944. and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see this well, but I was looking carefully at it for any kind of leaks. I thought there was a possibility that maybe the lower balance shaft could be leaking because I saw some weeping oil down low. Turns out I don't think it's the balance shaft, but it's the cam housing. I'm going to try to zoom in here for you guys to see this. Right there. See that? See that Allen bolt right here? There's oil here. See that oil? Trying to get it there for you. There's definitely oil. And that oil is weeping down there onto the exhaust manifold stud and going down all over the side of the motor. Okay? Now, a little weepage isn't necessarily the end of the world, but that's enough that it's going to make a mess. It's all over the place. And if it's starting to get on the exhaust manifold, that's going to be very frustrating because it's going to stink, okay? It's going to smoke. And to be perfectly honest, I've had that exact problem with the last 944 I had. Here, this is obviously your valve cover, your cam cover. But this whole scenario up here is the cam housing. In a 944, the camshaft is in its own aluminum block, its own housing, and that is in fact bolted to the head. Since oil has to flow from the head to the cam housing, there's a seal between it, and after time, on a tiny little place, they'll sort of like crack. It's like a hard, paper-thin gasket will go bad there, so you have to replace it. It's not that difficult of a job to do, but to do it, you do have to have the timing belt off, and you have to remove the housing with the camshaft. So it's very important, one, that you have the camshaft in its proper timing place and everything's where it needs to be. You obviously want to have the battery disconnected so that if some stupid way the starter got engaged, you wouldn't bend valves if your timing belt is off. And also you want to make sure it's in neutral with the parking brake on and no idiots try to bump start your car because the same thing can happen. So you just want to make sure you're going to be okay there. But I was able to replace that gasket in just a few hours with the help of a buddy. Didn't even have to jack up the car, you just do it right there. So I'm going to have to get a gasket and fix that. Something else I noticed that I want to show you guys, which is a little bit of an issue, but should be simple to repair. So under this plastic cover is the fuel rail for the fuel injection system. And there's one of the fuel injectors clearly. And you can see a lot of residue of old fuel. So there is some, you can see on the electro connector, a lot of residue of old fuel. So somewhere that's leaking, there is an O-ring at the top here where the fuel rail goes on. So I think it would make sense to replace all the fuel injector O-rings. I doubt there's a crack, but that, that's something that could be an issue, of course, too. And you don't want fuel spraying over everywhere and catching things on fire. So I just wanted to show you guys that, 944s are reasonably easy to work on. So to do the tying belts, I don't think I'm going to have to remove this stuff, the air box and the airflow sensor, but I might do it just to make it easier so you guys can see it. But this can be done relatively easily, getting under the car and all that. But I will most likely remove this just so I can better see what is going on with the air conditioning compressor. And also I want you guys to be able to see that. I'm going to reuse this belt. It's basically brand new, nothing wrong with it. But of course, with timing belts, it's important to have something fresh. This car is very easy to change, so of course we're going to put something fresh on. I don't think I'm going to change the water pump. If I don't feel anything crunchy about the bearings, everything feels really good, and it's not weeping, it's fine. And even if I have to replace it in 4 months or something, I don't want to mess with it right now. I mean, are we all made of money? No. The car will be fine. I'll clearly look after it. But I'm going to change oils. Transaxle on the engine. I'm also going to flush the brakes and bleed them. It's non-ABS, so it's easy. But you can see the brake fluid here is quite dark. Who knows when it's been changed. So we're going to start with something fresh, and hopefully it doesn't leak somewhere or have any issues. Also do a coolant flush, just be real nice to everything. And hopefully the car's being happy. But I'm really pleased with it. I think it's a good looking car and quite nice. Another thing I want to mention to you guys, of course, when any car guys buy a new to them car, you always get excited about what you want to do with it, of course. I've got that cool rally light pod that'll be fun to put on the car. Some nice fans out there mentioned to me that the early 944s, that this panel on the early cars is welded on. So you're not going to bolt that off and then get one from another car so easily. So it would be best, clearly, not to drill holes in this because it's quite nice when I'm going to put on a rally light pod. So if I'm going to utilize that, I'm going to see if I can find a real clever way to make some strong clips for the front where it can go on like this. And then perhaps I can make something that comes down here and bolts in here somewhere or maybe if I have to drill, it's just this lip on the inside that you don't see. So you can remove it with no trace on the outside of the car, and that'll be a real nice thing. But with regard to the tires, so this car, clear, these tires are junk. And you guys may have seen, I did a video in the past of the major importance for both safety and sport of old tires. You know, I could drive on these and they probably wouldn't blow up, but I can see dry rot and cracking here in between the, I don't know if you guys can see that, but these are clearly old and terrible. They don't have much tread left, and Yokohama hasn't made the ABSs like this in a while, I don't think. I could be wrong, but they're definitely an older tire. These are 15-inch wheels, which, you know, the trend and the fashion of cars and sports cars is always bigger wheels are always cooler. They look cool, and supercars and really expensive cars like to put on big brakes for better stopping power because cars are getting very fast nowadays, so you need bigger wheels for it. But here's what I've learned about a car like this early 80s Porsche 944. First of all, it doesn't make that much horsepower. It's never going to go that fast. I don't even care if you have a turbo car. They're quick, but they're not that fast. Having a tire with a little bit of sidewall is how this car was designed a long time ago. Frankly, they ride nice, they track a nice straight line, and they still grip well. So on a 944, I have no problem running factory size 15 or 16-inch wheels. They ride really nice. My first 944, I don't remember if it had 15 or 16-inch wheels on it, but it was a great driving car. It had some nice tires on it that were balanced for that. It tracked a great straight line. It was fun in the twisties. It stuck well. It did everything great. And then later, actually, maybe that was my second one. It was a white one. Neither here nor there. Later, what I did was I was able to afford some 17 or 18-inch wheels that were off of a Cayenne, actually. It was these flat multi-spoke, and they fit nice with the offset and everything. I got good tires for it. And while they grip better and they look super cool, it didn't drive as nice. It kind of followed the undulations in the pavement more, was more annoying. And honestly, I miss driving. That was the first one or the second one? Neither here nor there. I miss driving the car with the proper size match wheels and tires for it from back in the time period. So I just want to tell you guys that. These are the 15-inch wheels. It has the greater offset. So long story short, I'm just going to get some nice performing all-season tires. They're a little higher speed rated for these. They're not going to be ideally suited if it snows, but frankly, it doesn't snow that much anyway. And you just drive carefully. And frankly, tires that are not real wide for a 15-inch wheel or even 16-inch wheel are very modestly priced. So that's what I'm going to do, you know. So I'm resisting that urge to get silly and spend a bunch of money on different wheels. I found some really cool, I think they're like rail mesh wheels that kind of look like BBS wheels on eBay. Of course, I could put Fuchs on it that are for 16-inch, but then I'm going to spend more money on tires, you know, and I'm going to have to buy the wheels. And it's not going to make the car a better experience or more special. These look good. I'm going to have great tires and it's going to be fine. So I just want to tell you guys that from me being a longtime racer and car builder, I've had some pretty zoomy stuff, but there's a time when it just go with what you got. It's going to be just fine. And you can spend that money on something else. Maybe it's going on vacation with your sweetie or something. But it's going to be a great car. So that's where I'm going, guys. That's how I'm going to freshen it up here. Battery, belts, cam housing, gasket, fuel rail O-rings, and going to check out this battery. And as another note that I'm trying out to relate to everybody, with the timing belts, I just called up AutoZone, just a normal auto parts place. And I'm going to check it out. If they're junk, I won't use them. But frankly, these belts, there's so many companies that make belts around the world and then give them to the manufacturer. So what do you want to do? Go to a Porsche dealer and get a belt not made by Porsche that maybe has a little sticker on it that says Porsche when it was made by Continental or something like that you probably could have got in an auto parts store? So I just think this goes to show that an older Porsche like this that people look past is something that is reasonable to work on yourself and enjoy for a long time without spending a lot of money. The tires, I'm going to have less than $400 mountain balanced and disposing the old one for all of them, okay? So that's reasonable, very reasonable. Going to flush the brake fluid, basically just my time and the cost of brake fluid. Going to do an oil change. It's going to be, probably put dinosaur oil in it, just because if I put synthetic oil in it and the seals are used to dinosaur oil, I don't want the thing to start leaking all of a sudden. And the timing belts aren't going to cost that much. So for a car that I bought for $3,000, I'm going to have, hopefully, less than $1,000 in all of the parts and materials and everything I throw at it, including the tires. And for less than $4,000, have a really great looking and fun to drive red Porsche that I think you guys will hopefully one day relate to and go from there and enjoy. And you know what? Even if 944s are never worth more than that, come on. A really cool German sports car for $4,000, you can't beat it. And it doesn't matter if the snobs or anybody else like it out there. You got a great car, and that's exactly what I want to do and enjoy. And it just doesn't get any better than that. Come on. And certainly, unless the entire civilized world collapses in terms of values and money out there, I don't think you can go wrong on your investment like this, especially if you're able to work on it smartly yourself. Anyway, I hope this video has inspired you gearheads out there and hopefully budding German sports car enthusiasts. If I've offended any Porsche snobs, perhaps you should consider being less snobby. Actually, I did. I offended one dude with that Porsche snobby video with my buddy on the 928. Even though we were being funny, he's like, "Oh, so are you saying I'm a snob because I work on my air cool?" And he did a bunch of things, and then he tried to tell me I was like, took it too far, which is hilarious because he's literally the only one out of thousands of people that thought it was hilarious and realized it was a satire. Come on, guys. All right, everybody. Hey, it's a fun Porsche day, even for reasonable people working on your own car in your garage. I hope that you will like, comment, and of course subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers, guys.